Hello and welcome back to Voidzilla. Today is the day that Sam Bankman-Fried gets sentenced. Now, previously you guys watched as I flew to New York City to cover Sam Bankman-Fried's trial. We went to the Bahamas penthouse, kind of, to cover what the defense and the prosecutor said. Ultimately, Sam was found guilty of all counts. But, of course, as you know, that's not the sentencing. That was delayed until today. Today, Sam Bankman-Fried gets sentenced to however many years. As I'm recording this, I don't actually know yet. I'm recording this ahead of time because I think it's more interesting to present the various cases before we know whether Judge Kaplan is going to throw the book at Sam or be more lenient. Now, ultimately, even though he's been found guilty, the judge has a lot of say in how long this is. Of course, there are sentencing guidelines, but the defense and prosecutors are still making their arguments for how long Sam should ultimately get. The prosecution would say this is a brutal financial crime. This guy lied to investors repeatedly. He knew he was doing so. He built it into the code. You know, his various accomplices testified to this. You guys remember Gary Wang, Caroline Ellison. So the prosecutors say this guy is a financial criminal who's going to do it again. The defense is going to say he has autism, he's smart, but ultimately he wasn't trying to get rich. Instead, it was a financial mistake. A mistake, by the way, which doesn't have any victims because, according to them, all of the FTX creditors will be repaid in full. Now, that may sound surprising, but there is some truth to this. From CNBC, SBF's team is trying to argue for a 5 to 6 year jail sentence because FTX customers will get their money back. This is according to the bankruptcy lawyers. They say they have a plan to get people paid back. This is after the recent rise in crypto prices. Lawyers representing the bankruptcy estate of FTX told a judge in Delaware last month that they expect to fully repay customers and creditors with legitimate claims. Now, this is a bit of a technical thing because people are saying, oh, they're going to get all their money back. It's not quite true. So first of all, these people haven't had access to their money. But the important thing to know is FTX collapsed when crypto was at its rock bottom, right? Bitcoin was below 20K, if I remember right. So now Bitcoin's worth about $70,000 as of the time of this recording. So depending on how you account for that, yes, it would be much easier to pay them back if you denominate the customer claims in dollars. So let's say I own a Bitcoin on FTX and it blows up. Well, you might say, the bankruptcy lawyers might say, well, that guy, all we need to pay him back is $17,000. Meanwhile, Bitcoin goes up to $70,000. Even if I have a huge shortfall of Bitcoin, it's much easier to pay that back, if that makes sense, in dollars. Now, creditors would argue, and I think most people would see, like, if FTX hadn't blown up, now my money would have been worth $70,000, not $17,000. So there's some technicalities here as far as creditors getting paid back. It's basically comes down to luck of FTX crashed at the bottom, and now we're at like an all-time high. So that might be why. Now, I think it's great that FTX creditors are getting anything at all, but just understand that it's a very technical accounting thing if you think they're going to get paid back or not. I mean, that being said, the bankruptcy lawyers haven't given their exact plan of how they're going to pay everyone back. There are also stakes that FTX took in companies that actually are going to pay off, like Anthropic is now worth a lot of money. But regardless of the reason, whether you think it's luck or you think it's, this was all part of Sam Bankman-Fried's master plan, and you think he did no wrong, either way, they're going to use it to try to get him less of a sentence because they're going to say, look, where are the victims, right? Where are the victims? People are going to get paid back. Okay. So this is what they're arguing, and it's just a question of whether Judge Kaplan is going to accept it. Now, after all those arguments, this just in 3 minutes ago, Judge Kaplan has now sentenced Sam Bankman-Fried, after considering all of it, to 25 years in jail. I want to hear from you guys whether you think that's fair, whether you think it's just. I think ultimately for Judge Kaplan, it's a pretty strong sentence for a first-time offender. Obviously, the crime was really bad, but I think the pivotal factor here for Kaplan, at least from his statements, seemed to be his motivation here, and it looks like he really considered what Sam said during his press tour. We've talked repeatedly how Sam going on every every little interview, every show was a bad idea, and it does look like this has come back to haunt him. The judge talks about his act, how a lot of Sam's character was an act. He admitted it ultimately on November 15th, 16th. He was interviewed by a reporter he knew well who said, you said a lot of good stuff, or said a lot of stuff about good regulations. Was that just PR too? He said, yeah, F regulators. It was power, influence. He seems to be taking Caroline Ellison's testimony into consideration. He talks about the fact where he says that a man was willing to flip a coin as to the continued existence of life on Earth. One of his pithier expressions, I think, was "I effed up." Mr. Bankman-Fried has the right to plead not guilty and go to trial. Everyone has that right. But I come back to Miss Ellison's testimony. He knew it was wrong. So again, motivation being the deciding factor here for why the judge decided to give him such a sentence. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, he should have gotten more. He should have gotten life. Or this is way too much. He should have just gotten 5 years. I think the judge was trying to kind of strike the balance. It's definitely not like trivial. 25 years will put Sam Bankman-Fried in his 50s. So, to the people who go like, nothing but life would have been enough, I get it. You'll think this is not enough. But in the realm of white-collar crime, this is a pretty strong sentence for what is obviously a very serious crime. The judge also seems to be very aware that this is going to be a heavily scrutinized trial, saying people need to feel it's fair. Or we're back to trial by combat, talking about the sentencing. So punishment must fit the seriousness of the crime. And this was a serious crime. I want to add one further thought. I did not think it was a fruitful use of time to spell out every lie. When not lying, he was evasive, talking about Sam's own testimony. Hair splitting. We talked about how this was not going well for him, how he was behaving on the stand. Trying to get the prosecutors to rephrase questions for him. I've been doing this job for close to 30 years. I've never seen a performance like that. Again, Sam did himself no favors from constantly talking to the press, being so brazen with his kind of contempt for regulators, law enforcement, and then ultimately his performance on the stand, where he was constantly trying to dodge basic questions, refusing to answer even the most simple ones. So yeah, that's basically it. This saga is finally coming to a close. I'm hoping this is the end. We hear the last of Sam Bankman-Fried for a while, hopefully 25 years or so. But yeah, that's basically it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.